My name is Lee McCullough, and I am an associate clinical professor at Harvard Medical School, and I'm also the director of a psychiatric research institute in Vikersund, Norway, called Modenbad Psychiatric Center. And so when my son was diagnosed with cancer, actually he was given 3 weeks to live after some chemotherapy and radiation because it wasn't holding back the aggressive cancer. There was no other treatment, so I began researching different alternative treatments, and I came across Dr. Young's treatment. And when I went to stay with him and put him on this program at home, I mean, we didn't follow it perfectly, and we didn't know a lot of what I know now, but we did a moderate level program. In 3 weeks, his metastases were gone, and in another 3 weeks, the tumor was gone. The tumor disappeared by the end of February of this year, and he still is cancer-free. The doctors were astounded. And I, as a researcher, was very, very curious. And so I called Dr. Young, and I said, "Are you doing research on this?" And he said, "We haven't been. We've been so involved in the clinical work." But after I told him what I did, he said, "Would you help us?" And I found that very open and engaging, and I began working with him to develop a grant proposal to study this treatment, and also to develop case studies of his many successful treatments. So I was involved with this from February until June, and then something happened that I never expected. I began noticing that I was having trouble speaking and walking, and I knew this probably was linked to motor neuron disease. And when I finally got tested, I was in fact diagnosed at the University of California at San Francisco at the ALS clinic with ALS. That is amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, or Lou Gehrig's disease. It is the degeneration of the motor neurons. It's a terrible diagnosis. There's no treatment, there's no cure, and you only get worse. You rarely see a reversal, and very rarely. The doctors I talked to said they had never seen a reversal. I then went to University of California in San Diego to another ALS clinic and got an independent second diagnosis, and they said, yes, it was ALS. My EMG, or muscular testing, showed atrophy of the muscles on the left side, atrophy of the tongue. I couldn't say a full sentence in late June without stumbling over words. I've been videoed once before here 2 weeks ago, and I stumbled a lot, but still it was a lot less than then. And you can hear me, I'm speaking fluently now. It's such a wonderful thing. But also, I was given a swallow test because my tongue was atrophied, and it showed that I was not pushing food down my throat. I couldn't swallow a pill, and I'm on a liquid diet, which helps it. But they wanted to put a feeding tube in me immediately. And the reason they do that is because your muscles atrophy so fast that if they wait to do it when you can't swallow at all, then it's often too late. So now the procedure, the treatment, is to put in a feeding tube. I declined that and said I wanted to try Dr. Young's treatment. Then they gave me a lung test, a lung function test, and my lung function was 56% of normal capacity. And they wanted to fit me with a breathing mask and then have a breathing tube done eventually. By the way, 56% at 50% lung capacity, you have 1 year life expectancy. So that wasn't good. But I didn't use the breathing mask or breathing tube. I didn't want that yet. And I wanted to try Dr. Young's treatment. I'm trying to think, I tried to figure out how did I get sick. I was doing the program moderately, but I had tremendous emotional stress. Being with my son every day and not knowing if he was going to live or die. We didn't know where he started on his pH. He got it up to 6.5. And as a mother, I wanted him at 8 or above. And he didn't want his mother telling him to eat green vegetables. He was dying. He was in pain, in horrible pain. So I could only push so much, and I had to hold back a lot. And that was tremendous emotional stress on me. Then when I went back to my research institute in April, there was a lot more of things going on that were emotionally stressing. I know that made me vulnerable. I feel like that more than anything. I wasn't so physically stressed as I was emotionally stressed. So I think that is the etiology of the ALS. Although I think I kept a moderate level pH, a fairly good pH. But maybe I needed to be at 8 and above to counteract the stresses that were on me. That's how I understand it now. And of course, research will tell us a lot more. So, here I am at the center that I was researching, and I am, in fact, my own case study now. And I'm watching myself very carefully and documenting everything that happens. I'm also making sure that it's recorded what other patients are doing, and I'm seeing wonderful changes in all of us in the weeks that I've been here. I've been here 4 weeks now, and every morning we go through a rigorous exercise or vigorous exercise program, which I never thought I could do before I got ill. And I'm following along pretty well now. We are eating only green and leafy vegetables, and I'm doing just the liquid and pureed versions because I'm trying to take the burden off my system of digestion. At any rate, there's a whole program. It's 24/7. You are working on healing yourself all day and sleeping to heal as well. And there's little time for anything else. But it's not chemotherapy. It's not painful. It's just challenging. And I'm very blessed to be here. Because if I wasn't here, I'd have tubes coming in and out of me. And by now, I'd be in a wheelchair. But instead, what the hypothesis is that I want to see tested and thoroughly tested is that in my case, I have motor neuron death. So the hypothesis is if I alkalinize my system, then that will stop the motor neuron death. And when I arrived, it was high. I could feel it in the fasciculations, they call them. They're twitches or flinches in your muscles. It's the motor neurons dying. It went from high, which was wild. It was, my body was just going, twitching all the time, to medium, and now a month here, very low. I feel a little bit. It's very reassuring. I want it to stop entirely, but it may take several months of alkalinizing my system to stop it. That's the hypothesis that I'm hoping to see proven. And the other thing we're doing at the same time, which I think is extremely important for ALS people, but everyone, is that there's an intensive program of exercise. I spend an hour every morning, often with Dr. Young leading the Younger Yoga, where we do kind of calisthenics and yoga. And I feel like that is the most important part of my healing, because I have to build the motor neurons that are dying. I have to replace the motor neurons. I walk up and down the hills probably a mile every day. So there's one half of stopping the motor neuron death, stopping it and building new motor neurons. That's how I'm thinking about it. Research may tell us that other things are happening, but I want to see it studied because I am far better today than I was when I came.